Most women think the exit is the day they leave the narcissistic relationship, but that is only the visible part. You can leave and still have your mind organized around the damage. You can still make decisions around fear. You can still have your body tighten around conflict and inconsistency and keep living from the version of yourself that was shaped inside of the relationship long after it ends. This is the exit that nobody teaches. People will teach on red flags, boundaries, and no contact. Those conversations are important, but they are not what this episode is about. I want to share with you the deeper exit that happens after you leave. It is no longer building your inner world around somebody else's instability or confusing trauma responses with your personality or shaping your life around chaos after the relationship is done. This is something I felt really strongly about to share with you because I have lived it twice. I went through 2 narcissistic relationships back to back. After the first one, I thought I had healed because I left. I thought getting out meant I had done the work. I had not. I had gone through a brutal trauma bond. I was in recovery from alcohol. I was rebuilding parts of my life and doing what looked like healing the outside. I was functioning and trying, but I did not heal the pattern that chose, tolerated, and stayed attached to that kind of pain. And because I did not heal the pattern, I ended up repeating it. I walked into another relationship and a marriage and repeated a version of the same story in different packaging. Yes, it was a different man, but the pattern underneath was familiar. I adapted in the same ways, ignored the same signals, and handed myself over in the same places while trying to make something work that was never going to become safe. This episode is for women who want to leave or have already left and still feel trapped inside your own body. The ones who are listening who are in no contact and still replaying the person in their head all day. You know the language of trauma and narcissism, but still abandon yourself in real time. This is for you if you think you are broken because you got out and you do not feel free yet. You are still in the internal exit. If you do not do that part, you can break the trauma bond, go no contact, co-parent with a narcissist, move cities, rebuild your life on paper, and still have your identity wired around trauma, narcissists, or avoidance. You can still make choices from the same scared version of yourself and call it healing because the relationship ended. That is not freedom. True freedom is when your life is no longer organized around what hurt you, when your body is not treating every calm moment like a setup, when your identity is not built around managing chaos, and when you stop handing your mind, body, and identity over to the relationship. This is the exit that no one teaches women, and exactly what I'm going to be talking to you about today. I'm Meaghan Webster, an abuse recovery coach, a trauma-informed strategist, and the woman a narcissist hopes to never meet twice. This is the Narcissist Worst Nightmare podcast, and today we are not talking about a safety plan, a legal strategy, or logistics. There are 5 episodes before this one in the Forged in the Fire series that show you how to be done, how to build a business to get out of the abuse, how money changes your nervous system, and what happens when court decides your life. This is the final episode of the Forged in the Fire series because tomorrow night is the Get the Fuck Out game plan call. The link is in the show notes. This is where I'm going to teach you leverage and buying power because women need real options to get out. You need money, and I've been super clear on that. So what happens after the visible exit? This is the internal exit, the relational pattern that keeps you organizing around instability and calling it love, loyalty, patience, or potential. What truly happens when the person is gone and the pattern is still running in the background, inner body, and inner choices. These things will quietly keep stealing your life. It'll shape who you date next, what you tolerate, how you read mixed signals, whether you trust yourself, and whether peace feels safe or foreign. It will decide whether you build a life that reflects your standards or one that keeps recreating your wounds. This is not a black cat dating episode. I am not talking about seduction, feminine energy, or standards in the way that I teach it there. I am talking about women who need the truth about what actually changes in your life after narcissistic relationships. How you can leave the man and still be living inside the pattern. How you can be out and still not be free. And I know that because I was that person. I also know what happens when you become the woman who decides to break the pattern because the decision changed everything for me and hundreds of clients. It shifts how you parent, how you lead, how you run your life, how I love, who I let close, and what I'm available for. It changed what my body calls safety. So if you have ever thought, I have left, why do I still feel like this? This episode is for you. Most of the time, the internal ending is a lot quieter than what people expect. It can look like a woman getting very still inside of herself because something has finally become clear. That was true for me. In the moments where I was still talking, still trying, still making the effort, something inside me had already started pulling back because my body registered a truth in my identity that was still trying to negotiate. A lot of women will miss this because they expect clarity to feel empowering right away. A lot of the time it does not. It can feel very cold and flat and like your body has stopped participating in the same way that it used to. You might be mid-conversation and realize you're actually not confused anymore, you're just done explaining. You can hear the manipulation that used to hook you and feel disgust instead of urgency. You might stop looking for the right words because you understand the words were never the issue. You may notice your body tensing before they even speak and realize that your nervous system has been tracking danger for a very long time. This is your body telling you the truth. I don't talk about this relationship a lot, but the first narcissistic abuse relationship I experienced, I had attachment wounds, addiction, and a whole life that was fully built around numbing and managing. When my body told me something was wrong, I overrode it or translated it into something else. I made panic mean love and obsession mean depth, and the crash after the high meant the relationship truly mattered to me. After I left, I thought the leaving piece was solving the problem. I ended the relationship, but I did not heal the pattern. When I got into my marriage, that pattern came with me. It showed up in how I read men, what I tolerated while trying to be understanding, and how long I stayed in conversations and situations that were costing me my peace. A part of me still believed that if I was patient enough, loving enough, loyal enough, clear enough, I could still get a different outcome. That is a pattern, not a personality. Once I saw that, shame started to loosen its grip. I stopped looking at myself like I was stupid and started seeing myself as highly adaptable. This changed the whole frame for me. A lot of women believe that they are weak or stupid in abusive relationships. It's actually that they are perceptive, emotionally intelligent, loyal, and wildly capable. They read energy very fast, they carry pressure, and keep a lot moving while they are falling apart inside. These strengths are often the exact reason why they stay too long, because the same abilities that make them powerful in life can keep them attached to dynamics that reward endurance and punish self-trust. Being able to endure something does not mean it's good for you. Being able to understand someone does not mean that you have to stay connected to their chaos. And compassion does not require you to keep bleeding for people who refuse accountability. The internal ending that happens before the visible ending, your body will know that the logistics are about to change. I had to learn that the internal ending happened before the visible ending both times. My body knew before the logistics changed, before the relationship status changed, before the story I was telling myself changed. I had moments where a very specific calm came to me, and it was not an emotional state. It felt like I could hear something, watch something, or witness the cycle over and over again without arguing with myself. And I realized that I built a life inside of that pattern, but I refused to stay there. It moved me out of a loop of trying to fix the person and into the truth of what my life was costing me if I stayed. This is where the rebuild really starts, even if you were still handling money, custody, housing, legal, or every other practical piece. Your body will know before your life changes. So if you're listening and where you're at in your journey right now feels flatter than what it used to, and you keep asking yourself what is wrong with you because you're not reacting the same way anymore, there may be nothing wrong with you at all. You may be at the point where your body has stopped negotiating with what your soul really knows. And that place does come with grief because it forces reality. It shows you the version of the relationship you kept trying to get to is not the relationship that you're actually in. It will also show you, if you are aware enough, that you have your own pattern, which is very hard to face when you are committed to growth and want to believe that love and effort matter more than they do in a dynamic like this. If you feel confused right now, I want you to know that confusion is very expensive. It costs time, identity, self-trust, and your future if you build your life around avoiding what is true. The day that your body knows is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of your truth. The talk about self-abandonment gets thrown around online so much that women can repeat the phrase and still not know what it actually looks like in their real life. It shows up in very obvious ways. This is not something cute to read on Instagram. A lot of the time, it's very capable women functioning at a super high level while quietly leaving herself out of the equation. For me, my self-abandonment looked very responsible from the outside. It looked patient, mature, like I was trying to be fair, like it was my job to keep the peace and not overreact. It was showing compassion, loyalty, stability. Inside my body, it looked completely different. It felt like chronic tension, resentment, confusion, overthinking, exhaustion, and my nervous system never fully powered down. One of the biggest ways that it showed up for me was how I rewrote my own memory after conflict. Something would happen and I would feel in that moment that it was wrong. My body would register it immediately. Then later I would replay it and start questioning myself. Maybe I was too sensitive, too much, too misunderstood. Maybe I made it worse with my tone or the question that I asked. And if I hadn't done that, would the outcome have changed? That is self-abandonment in real time. I was explaining my tone instead of staying with what was said to me. I was making my needs smaller because I did not want another fight. I was going quiet to keep the peace and then calling myself bad at communication. I was staying hyper competent so nobody could accuse me of failing in that relationship. And I was almost always an overgiver because needing less felt safer than being on it. I looked easygoing while my body was uptight all the time. And I'm sure you'll be able to relate to this too. You kind of scan for people's moods before deciding how much of yourself could be allowed out. This becomes very automatic in narcissistic relationships and you stop noticing it, right? Like you walk into a room and it's very normal to watch before you speak. You check the face, the voice, the energy, the atmosphere. You decide whether this is a good time, a risky time, or a time to quietly walk away. You start shaping yourself around what's in front of you. Do that long enough and you stop knowing what your natural expression feels like. You'll start calling yourself anxious, difficult, intense, or hard to love when a lot of what's happening is adaptation to instability. And this pattern is expensive to you because it costs you your identity. I have clients who can run businesses, raise kids, lead teams, and carry entire households and still abandon themselves in a relationship because adaptation became so normal and endurance looked like strength. They can handle pressure, so they continue to handle it. They understand the other person, so they keep trying to understand more. They absorb the impact, so the relationship keeps demanding more from them. Being able to carry something does not mean that you should. There's also another layer of this that I want to talk about. Self-abandonment can hide inside of values. The way that I perceived it was rooted in, there were times where I looked patient, but it was not rooted in self-respect. It was rooted in fear of what would happen if I stopped, right? There were times where I looked understanding, but I was just trying to prevent escalation. There were a lot of times where I looked calm, but that's not emotional maturity. That is adaptation under pressure. Love does not require you to erase yourself. Emotional maturity, love, cooperation, healing, motherhood, if you have patterns that are built around getting safe by managing other people, this is going to feel like your best skill, and that's exactly why it's hard to catch. A lot of women will not recognize this until they are exhausted or completely numbed out. And one day they're going to wake up and they'll realize they're asking for less, needing less, wanting less, and wonder why they feel so empty. They're going to realize that you're going to realize you've been overperforming competence because it feels safer than getting vulnerable. Vulnerability is not safe in abusive dynamics, so they've been carrying everyone else's emotional state and calling this love. This is not meant to put shame on it. I want to try and help you understand that self-abandonment, I am not saying any of this to add shame to the list of things you're probably feeling right now. But the chronic overfunctioning is not loyalty and it is not noble or cute. And your body is going to start blaming you for the reaction that your mind is trying to normalize. There's going to be a moment in your life where you start understanding what you actually need. It's not more performance. It's returning to self. So when you come back to what you know, what you felt, what you need, you stop negotiating with yourself what your body has been trying to tell you for years. Once a woman starts catching self-abandonment in real time, the pattern starts to lose power because you're no longer participating in it unconsciously. The exit that no one teaches is the one where you stop handing your mind, your body, and your identity over to the narcissist or the abuser. And it's a massive shift that you are going to feel. I'm not talking about becoming cold or hard. It's your self-return. Before this shift, the person can be gone and it can still run your day. You replay the conversations, write imaginary arguments when you're driving or making coffee or you're in the shower. You defend yourself to someone who is not even in the room. You're going to try to solve them, explain yourself, or get a different outcome inside of your mind because that space is safe. You'll spend your energy on what they think, what they feel, what they might say, or how they might react. This is narcissistic abuse, and that is still your inner world being handed over, right? The internal exit starts when you no longer replay conversations all day trying to solve someone committed to misunderstanding you. When you no longer defend your intentions to a person who benefits from misreading them. When you stop giving personal truth to people who want to use it as ammunition. And when you no longer make decisions based on how they'll react and begin making them based on your truth. This is where we stop outsourcing reality and you begin trusting what you see, hear, and feel. You stop trying to be understood who someone needs your confusion to stay in control. You no longer make your healing dependent on their apology or having them be the center of your internal world after they're physically gone. This can sound like a good thing out loud, but it can feel real brutal in your body at first, and I want to be super honest about that. One of the biggest shifts that I experienced was how much mental energy I had spent managing a person's mood or outcome. I was so used to tracking other people that I had almost no natural default for just being myself without scanning. Even after I understood what I had lived through, the pattern was still there in my body. And for me, that goes back to my relationship with my parents. I could still feel myself making decisions around possible reactions. I could still feel the urge to explain too much. I could still feel the pull towards closure, understanding, the ending. And that urge is real, but it's also going to cost you something. Every time you hand your inner world back to the same person that harmed you, you reinforce the pattern that says they still get access to your body, your mind, and your identity. And the part that I'm sharing with you today is that you get to decide that access is over. The decision does not require apology, growth, accountability, or participation from somebody else. It does not require court to go your way, or co-parenting to be easy, or the system to validate you. It requires you to be honest and accountable to yourself. The shift is practical, but it shows up in what you do, right? It's in action. You stop sending the long text or over-explaining the boundary, sharing vulnerable details with someone who's already shown you what they do with them. You no longer ask 20 people what they think before you make a decision because you know it's right. You stop reacting in real time when your body is activated and answer later when you're clear. You no longer chase closure conversations that never brought you peace in the first place. That's the real exit. And this part gets uncomfortable because a lot of women are used to motion and urgency and problem solving. So when you stop handing yourself over to somebody else, it might feel a little empty at first. Your nervous system is very used to holding on to chaos as a baseline, so the calm is going to feel disruptive. A lot of women mistake that discomfort for missing that person, when what they are feeling in their body is missing the actual pattern. This piece alone can save you years of healing in your life. It is not about hating them. It's about deciding you are no longer handing yourself over anymore. It does not require performance to others or speeches, proof of anything. And that is a different kind of power. It only needs to be true to you. And once you start locking in on that, your life is going to change in ways other people might not understand right away. You stop arguing with people. You become more selective about who gets access to your inner world. You stop narrating every emotional shift and give yourself permission to trust yourself. That is self-leadership in a nutshell. It's not to become emotionless or unreachable or guarded. It's to stop making pain feel like home and start reorganizing your identity around the chaos. The goal is to stop making pain feel like home and stop organizing your identity around chaos. You want to be the woman who can stay open and belong to yourself. Once this part begins, your healing really stops being something you perform and starts becoming something you live because you are finally building from truth. There are going to be a lot of private shifts in your life that you will understand and know before anyone else can see. I think a lot of people crave this big dramatic difference, but the real rebuild doesn't look like that at all. It actually feels kind of boring. There are going to be a lot of private shifts that happen in your life before other people can see it. And your healing journey is not for other people, but I think a lot of people wait for this big magic moment when honestly, it's quite quiet and boring. The way that self-trust comes back online for most of my clients isn't because of one breakthrough and never doubting yourself again. It's starting to act like your life was your own, even in the smallest ways. When you've lived inside of confusion for so long and you normalize that and you start looking outside of yourself before you check in with your own body, the self-trust piece is something that a lot of people kind of question. You have to get really honest about how you're feeling, and it's not about compassion or love or loyalty. It's starting to say the things that are true. You're angry, you're hurt, you're disgusted, you missed signs, warnings, signals that maybe you should not have missed. You wanted closure that was never coming. You could see and feel the pattern, but you still understood who you were in certain moments. But when you start speaking on your truth, the pattern loses its power. This is why I talk to my clients about writing letters and doing things in private. You get to start paying attention to what drains your body. And that sounds very simple, but a lot of women will override their body, their mind, their truth, and push through it. You can start walking away from conversations, a phone call, even social interactions without feeling like you weren't doing something right. Most would explain it away or try to justify it, but in this season, you start treating the reactions as information instead of a problem. A lot of my clients will start being more selective with who has access to them during this time period. And it's not to be difficult or mysterious, it's because access is actually very expensive when you are rebuilding. Not everyone should be in your inner world when you're learning how to belong to yourself again. Some people do want updates because they're curious or because they care. Other people want details because it gives them something to talk about. You need to own your fear and your opinions and drop them back into your life, and most don't have room to do that and share with other people. You want to get back to a place where you feel stable. This is self-loyalty and self-trust. It's not just about believing in yourself. It's about behaving in ways that prove to your body that you will not abandon yourself the second things get uncomfortable. It's keeping promises to yourself in very small moments. It's letting your no just be a no. It's not overexposing yourself to people who have not earned access to you. It's why dating right after an abusive relationship is actually really dangerous, because you don't want to betray your own peace just because someone wants instant access to your energy. When we talk about things like validation and respect, it does have to start with you. That is an inside job. So if you allow other people to stay inside while you do your work, your life will actually change from the inside out when you become more private on your healing. Your intuition also gets disconnected when you are in an abusive or narcissistic relationships. You make a decision and you immediately feel dread. And then that dread makes you feel like you made the wrong decision. Or you set a boundary, then you feel guilty, and the boundary gets called mean. Or maybe you're over-explaining and suddenly it feels cruel. When you choose peace and your body reads the silence as danger, that has to do with the relationship itself, not necessarily with your intuition. The decision is not wrong, your body is just adjusting because you spent years in unpredictability and your nervous system was very used to intensity. It operates in urgency and conflict and mixed signals and emotional whiplash. It can react fast. It can also survive almost anything. So when you make a calm, self-respecting decision and your body kind of freaks out, you panic and run back towards what's familiar instead of knowing this is where you're getting pulled back. You assume this feeling is missing them, but what it actually is adrenaline withdrawal. You think fear is the sign to stop when a lot of the time fear is a symptom of change. I am not saying ignore your body. I am saying it's time to learn how to read it accurately. Your body can be scared and your decision can be right. Two things can actually be true at once. A lot of my clients learn this in real time in moments while we are coaching because they make a move and their body feels like they've done something dangerous. It is uncomfortable and there's kind of like a weird, dull ache, but you choose to be consistent with your healing and your growth over getting pulled back into old abusive dynamics because part of you still knows you can function there. This is where pattern work starts to get very real. You learn the difference between a warning and a withdrawal. It starts to feel like you're getting clear. Withdrawal will feel urgent and loud and emotional because your nervous system is losing access to what it used to regulate through, even if that was the thing that hurt you. That's why women can leave narcissistic relationships and still get pulled back to the chaos. It does not mean they want abuse. It means that your body has a map and the map is familiar. We just want to get your body on track to understand a different signal. So if you feel panic and you're trying to figure out whether this is intuition or not, do not let it drag you back into places, people, or things that your future cannot survive. If your body is scared when you're making a decision, stay with yourself, slow down, and do not hand your life back to fear just because it got loud. Fear is loud, but that does not make it right. What rebuilds a woman from the inside out is not one singular insight. It is a set of decisions that are repetitive in her life until she starts feeling like she can trust herself again. I think a lot of my clients get frustrated when they think that it's just this one thing that's going to fix all of it. They want the conversation, the perfect therapist, the right program, the exact explanation that suddenly makes the pain leave their body. I understand this because I wanted that too. I just wanted a moment where it all kind of stops and I can go back to living my life. I wanted the emotional math to finally add up for me. But what changed for me, and what I always share with my clients, is it's not one conversation. Healing is a forever journey, and it's the repetition of the actual work. It's what you choose to do on the regular days when there's some hard decisions to make or feelings to work through, but you choose to do it anyways. There are certain aspects of this that I want to share from my own healing journey that were super helpful in rebuilding my life, not once, but twice over from narcissistic abuse. For me, I rebuilt through communication and movement and fitness. Of course, I've talked before on other episodes about my sobriety principles that kept me real honest with myself, and ownership. I built through routines, I built through relationships that were healthy and I didn't have to perform for, and I chose to live a life that was consistent over intense. I had to learn to stop chasing emotional breakthroughs and start building emotional reliability. I had to stop asking what feels powerful or fast right now and start asking what my life will feel like next month if I stay, and this will be stronger. Honest communication rebuilt my life because it forced me to stop hiding inside of half-truths or over-explain and saying yes when my body was already saying no. It taught me where I was still betraying myself in small ways that looked harmless but cost me a lot. The movement and fitness piece was my expressive regulation, and it gave me a new relationship with my body that was not punishment or control. I could use it as an outlet when things were going on in my life that I was trying to manage emotionally. It's not just emotional, things happen in your body. So when you can move through it with physical, it's a practice and it got to be repeated. My sobriety principles rebuilt me because they stripped me of excuses and forced me to be transparent. I stopped romanticizing what hurt me. I stopped negotiating with things that were costing me my life, my energy, my sanity. It also taught me self-responsibility without hatred, and that honesty is loving even when it hurts. Ownership of self really helped me because I stopped making my life a reaction to what happened to me. What happened mattered. It shaped me. It hurt me. It cost me. But I've said this before on social media. When you can weaponize your own trauma, there's a point of your healing journey where something becomes different. It didn't ask me what I was going to do now, not what was fair, not what happened, not what I should do with it. Ownership for me is where I stopped waiting for the past to release me or define me or reshape me, and I started building a life that did not require my past to change first. I am not a type A girly. I am a type B girly, and routines have always been a struggle for me. But having routines in my day with my child and my nervous system allowed me to feel safer faster. A lot of people will underestimate that. They think it's basic. They think structure is boring. It's not boring when your body has been trained to scan for danger. Predictability actually gets to be medicine in your life when you've had chaos for years. Things like getting up around the same time, moving your body, what kind of nutrition you feed yourself, working out, resting, keeping promises to yourself. Those things look really small until you realize they are the exact opposite of chaos. Redefining relationships for me were such a cornerstone. I let go of a lot of people when I ended my narcissistic marriage. That year, I also let go of my two best friends. I also left AA. I decided to lean into relationships where I did not have to perform because I had self-safety. Not everyone wanted a version of me that was agreeable, useful, strong, endlessly available. Some people just wanted me to be present, happy, safe, and not disappearing for a connection was something that helped me change my standards, which bled into my dating life. Being consistent to yourself matters more than anything else. And there's a season where I realized that I was still searching for milestones, measurements, emotional peaks to tell me that I was doing well. I wanted to mark my progress on how inspired I felt, how clear I felt, how healed I felt that day. So when I had a bad day or I got triggered or I felt grief, I would question everything and I would make it mean something about me like I was back at the beginning. I talk about this a lot with clients that go no contact with an ex and then they do go back It's not about being broken, and that mindset will keep you stuck for a really long time after you are out because you're treating healing like a feeling instead of a practice. What actually moved things forward for me was learning to trust myself on days that I did not feel good and I did not feel large and in charge and in power. When I was tired, when I was grieving, when I was angry, the days I missed old versions of myself. I stopped making those days mean something about me like I was failing, and I learned to stay consistent in my routines and telling the truth and moving my body and doing the next right thing and letting the feelings move through me without allowing them to run everything in my life. These simple practices are how you can start building from the inside. This is not an overnight success thing, but becoming more trustworthy to yourself over time is how this starts feeling better. So a lot of people will stop at awareness and they'll call that healing. Awareness is the first step, but awareness alone does not change your life. You can understand your childhood, the abusive relationship, the pattern, exactly why you chose what you chose, and still hand your days over to the same fear. You can be out of the relationship and still be living from the same internal position that kept you there. You can understand self-abandonment, but still abandon yourself in real time. This is not failure. This is the other layer that nobody wants to actually share on social media because it's not pretty. A lot changed in my life after leaving. But that is the physical state. The breaking the pattern is the emotional connection. I no longer made chaos feel familiar and self-abandonment feel like love. It was catching myself in moments where I wanted to over-explain, manage, shrink, smooth over what I actually felt, making myself easier to be around so I didn't risk a disconnection. It was choosing differently in those moments until my body started to trust me. It is not one breakthrough, one conversation, one different way of living. It is a repetitive practice that goes on long enough that your life starts to feel different. When you do that work, your entire world changes. Your decisions are no longer around fear and they are around what is true. You stop treating anxiety like it should be in charge. Pain is no longer your compass. You stop giving access to people who keep taking from you because you are finally loyal to your own life and not the pattern. You're going to start feeling like you're more on solid ground. This is being self-led. A lot of my clients have questions around dating after abuse. And I want to share something that is incredibly real and equally beautiful. You can become deeply loving and still be impossible to manipulate. You can still be open without losing yourself. You can receive love without needing to prove yourself. You can still tell the truth without worrying all day about the consequences. You can have a hard day and not feel like your honesty or transparency is going to cost you the connection. This is what starts happening in your life when you reset your boundaries and standards after you spend some time healing and holding your own life instead of just holding fear. I am experiencing true love and a healthy relationship for the first time in my life at 36 years old. Some people will hear that and think, so what? They do not understand the weight of it. Most people will never understand what it feels like to be fully met, seen, heard, and loved for exactly who you are in every mood, every moment, without confusion, without conditions, without consequence. I am treated with love, respect, kindness, and reciprocity as the baseline. Healthy love is easy to be in. I smile all of the time. Last night we were sitting on my couch, my boyfriend and I, and he said, it's hard to believe that you were not always this happy. And when I tried to explain it, it was like containment. He said, it's hard to believe that you were not always this happy. This is not a relationship where I have to perform, hide, manage, edit myself, or recover for hours because of something that I said. I do not have to pretend I'm okay when I'm not. I do not have to shrink my opinions. I don't have to become someone else to keep the connection. I get to be fully myself, and I am completely loved for who I am. I have not had to change, fix, shapeshift, decode mixed signals. There is nothing else other than the fact that I am secure, I am safe, I am loved, and I know that with full confidence. This did not happen because I got lucky and met a nice man at the perfect time, okay? It became possible because I stopped handing my mind, my body, and my identity back to an old relationship. It became possible because I broke and healed my patterns first. I know my triggers, I know my wounds, and I know how to work through them with myself in order to be a loving, open human, in order to stop leaving myself in the name of love. Having a healthy, loving relationship is possible because I broke the pattern and healed it first. Here's what I want you to take from this episode. Yes, getting out is important, but the life you want to build in what comes after is when you stop repeating the patterns you were taught to leave yourself. This is where freedom truly lives, not in looking healed. It's in the way you choose, speak, trust, and hold yourself right now. The work is not becoming harder. It's about understanding your own body, being able to love yourself first without disappearing, being able to tell the truth without panicking, live a life that actually matches what you know you deserve. That is what's going to change your life. If this episode landed, it's probably because you know this is the layer, not more awareness or analyzing. It's the patterns you have to break. And if you are in the part where you need leverage first so you can begin to do this properly, we have the Get the Fuck Out game plan call tomorrow night. It is a live training where I walk you through real strategy of building buying power from where you are right now. So you're not waiting on permission or perfect timing or somebody else to change. I'm going to show you the path of how to build a virtual assistant business that gave me options to leave my narcissistic abusive marriage with a plan that creates real movement. All of the details are below in the show notes. This is the last episode of the Forward to the Fire series. I so appreciate all of the DMs and emails that I've received. I share here and on my social media daily. I run free coaching live on TikTok and YouTube 1 to 2 times a week. I offer private coaching, a membership focused on abuse recovery, and a group coaching program for women dating after abuse. This is the Narcissist Worst Nightmare podcast, and the moment you stop believing yourself is the moment your whole life starts taking shape.